Now we're talking about a potential new contract for Charles Leclerc. Amy, you seem to be the most knowledgeable out of the three of us on this, or passionate at the very least. So, talk to us more about that.
So, rumours going around. We thought potentially when we filmed on Tuesday it might be official that he's signed a 5-year contract with Ferrari till 2029. Charles Leclerc is obviously 5th season now with Ferrari, 6th year in Formula One, and he's signed a long contract initially with Ferrari, and now he's going to potentially be resigning on another 5-year deal. And it does raise questions because realistically in that 5 years he's been at Ferrari, what have they given him to be able to compete for a championship? Not even half a season he's been able to do that for. And when we talk about 22 season, we think it's an incredible season for him coming P2, obviously beating Sergio Perez, but it still shouldn't be enough for a driver of that calibre.
Calibre, yeah.
And it does raise questions of, can Ferrari really give him, not even just a race-winning car, but a championship-winning car? And should he really stay that long when it's not really necessary? He is their star boy. He knows that Ferrari want him. So what is the need to sign a 5-year contract? I guess it, assigns his loyalty to them, but why should he do that?
He doesn't need to do that.
I mean, it doesn't feel like very long ago at all since he signed his last contract extension as well. So, I mean, to do my best George Russell impression, he's just, it's got to be some paycheck that he's getting, surely, and some maybe false promises. But who knows? I mean, it is Ferrari at the end of the day. It's not like they're going to be without a championship for the rest of their existence.
No.
And if someone is going to do it, chances are, as far as I'm concerned, it will be Charles Leclerc if they deliver the right car that is legal. But yeah, no, I'm with you. What have they really given him apart from, obviously a fair few pole positions and then a couple of race wins here and there and just sold dreams, really?
Yeah, it does seem ridiculous that he'd agree to a 5-year contract. You've got to keep your options open.
Yeah.
I understand waiting with Ferrari until 2026.
Yes.
See where they are at the new regulations. Maybe they'll be far and away ahead of everyone. But if they're not, you can't be tied into a contract. You can't tie yourself in, especially in your prime years. I did actually see a rumour today that it could be an initial 3-year deal. So that would make more sense, I think, because that would basically just time in, I think, until the first year of the new regulations.
Yeah.
And then obviously from then on, I think it would be, there would be deals in place potentially for another 2 years.
There's got to be some sort of escape clause in the contract.
Yeah, I think that's what he needs. Yeah, you have to have that. You can't be. That would just make no sense because it's not like I could understand if someone like Sainz did it because he is potentially more a threat. He's more at a threat of losing his seat. He hasn't got, he's slightly less marketable. I'm not saying Sainz is not marketable, but he's, Charles Leclerc is Charles Leclerc. Like, come on. So it would make more sense for Sainz to do that. Because you never know in 5 years or 4 years time or whatever, there could be upcoming rookies, things like that, to just push him out the sport. You're never always safe in F1, but Leclerc, he pretty much is safe. You'd say for the next 5 years, he's always going to have a seat in F1. So it does seem a bit strange from his part.
Yeah,
and it does question about what are they going to do with Sainz because. Sainz is not going to get offered a 5-year contract. No. I saw rumours again today that they're close to offering him a 2-year contract. So where does that leave Sainz? Would you take a 2-year contract if you know that you're definitely going to be number 2 because Leclerc's got this 5-year contract? It does also make sense for Sainz because maybe that 2 years wait till Audi.
Yeah, exactly.
That would make a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. But it's just a bit of a complicated scenario Ferrari.
Like you said, it takes him to 2025 and then gets that move to Audi, which has been rumoured, and then that's a free seat at Ferrari, and then you've definitely got your number 1 driver there, Charles Leclerc. That's probably why Ferrari want to keep him locked in for them 5 years. I definitely have my predictions on who could get that seat. I think it'd be a Frenchman that you could be fond of. That's my prediction, or an Alex Albon.
Not Ollie Behrman.
Ollie Behrman it depends if he's in F1 for me.
True,
by that point. And I think Ferrari would never have a rookie first season. But on the topic of Charles Leclerc, he did have, it was rumoured that he did have conversations with Mercedes and Red Bull this year. And I think it would definitely make a statement that he, I only want Ferrari. But when Red Bull are so dominant, and you've got to think, what is my priority here? Winning a world championship with Ferrari or just winning a world championship for myself?
Yeah.
And Ferrari have done so much for him over the years. Ferrari Driver Academy, got him that seat in F1. He himself, obviously, with the talent he's got, but, they've been there supportive all the time, took the leap of faith on him in his second season in F1, the second youngest ever Ferrari driver. But he's returned it, and it's like Alex Albon in that, the podcast recently. Dave gave him a lot, but he's also now given them a lot. And now I think, like we said, Ferrari's Ferrari, and they will come back stronger. It's just a case of when, and because we see Charles Leclerc after races and he just looks mentally drained, especially the last 2 seasons where he's had this hope, and we had a championship winning car 2022, and then the strategy messes him up, the reliability of the car messes him up. Does make mistakes himself, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the time over the last 2 seasons it's not been his own fault, and it's just a case of, like I said, is it worth waiting for Ferrari to get it right, or can he move and somewhere like Red Bull, which we've discussed on here before, the absolute excitement of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc in the same team. But would he want to do that? Would he want to risk it all? Or he does love Ferrari so much, and I think that's why he just needs to get his priorities straight, in my opinion. Yeah,
it does seem a little bit strange to tie yourself to such a long contract. When you said about that Red Bull seat, that second seat, it probably is going to be available in the next couple of years.
Definitely.
Paris isn't going to be there for much longer than next year.
Daniel Ricciardo's getting on a bit as well.
Ricciardo, even if he gets in and performs, he's not getting any younger. In the next couple of years, that seat is going to be available, and Red Bull aren't going to turn down Charles Leclerc. So you think maybe if you sign a 2-year contract, keep your options open. But of course he knows it's like, I'm not telling him anything. I'm not actually speaking to him. But from the outside, it doesn't really seem to make much sense.
Yeah. I mean, when you said wait until 2026, that seems fair enough. He's already overseen one major regulations overhaul in the form of 2022, and Ferrari off to a great start to that season, but then it just withered away much more quickly than anyone could possibly imagine, considering the pace that they had in Bahrain 2022. And so, if they failed to, and then obviously the pace this year as well hasn't been up to standard. They haven't improved, from where they were when they finished off in 2022. And so if they go through 2 regulation changes, if Charles Leclerc is a Ferrari driver through 2 unsuccessful cars after the regulation changes, then he would be within his right, I would say, to then leave the team after spending nearly, 2027, you're nearly 10 years at Ferrari. He joined in 2019, obviously, Ferrari Academy for, years before that. But up to 10 years at Ferrari without a world championship, that seems like, a failure on what would be probably the team's part at that point, because, a Charles Leclerc entering his prime years of his career, without a doubt will be world championship quality once he absolutely is mistakeless. He's if that's a word, mistakeless, without mistakes. And it's certainly a gamble on Leclerc's part. If it makes it a bit of a juxtaposition, but a very safe gamble, because obviously you've got a guaranteed seat at the pinnacle of motorsport at one of the most historic teams of all time for until 2029. Was it 2029? Did you say? 2029. I can't. That blows my mind.
I can't even fathom how far in the future
that is an enormous contract. So you've got the safety of being in F1 for that amount of time in a team that trusts you as a driver, but will Ferrari make the steps forward in that time? You'd certainly hope so, with their budget and their facilities and their numbers of staff and their history. But that's the gamble. It's Ferrari. This isn't the same Ferrari that we saw in the 90s, in the 2000s as well. This is a different team. This is a Ferrari team that is aged quite poorly. I think post Schumacher, post Raikkonen.
It's a big pride thing with Ferrari, I think, offering them this, because let's just look at the last few years. They got rid of they on their own behalf got rid of Raikkonen and replaced him with Charles Leclerc. They then, on their own behalf, got rid of Sebastian Vettel. 2 championship winners, big names in F1, left a mark on the sport forever, but it was off their own backs that they replaced him for. Sebastian Vettel wanted a new adventure, but realistically, no one ever wants to leave Ferrari. So then they got in there 2.
I mean, that Ferrari in 2020 was abysmal. Seb did not look like he was enjoying himself there. And so I think that was certainly a more equal-sided decision on that part than the Raikkonen decision, because obviously at that point he was, knocking on the door of 40 years old. But they did sign Kimi Raikkonen while he was, sort of leaving the prime years of his career. Ferrari make these sort of decisions that it is, in terms of all the teams, it is the sort of most old-fashioned team on the grid. That's what's widely sort of regarded. They, in terms of the female employees that they've got, they're not really willing to move forward and modernise. They've got, I'm not saying that the facilities are outdated or anything like that, but they've been based in the same place for donkey's years now. And it's a case of, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Fair enough. But by now it's pretty broken.
Yeah.
You've not won a championship since 2007 with a driver that you then re-signed despite the fact he was in his mid-30s. There are decisions sort of to upkeep a dignity and a reputation that are damaging the team,
I think if Charles Leclerc left, it would be his own decision. Ferrari will never want Charles Leclerc to leave. I can't see that happening in the next few years. If it follows a continuous path of what's been happening, where Ferrari are just on the down, not on the up and up, Charles Leclerc will finally get a grip and he'll decide to leave and go to a Mercedes or a Red Bull, and Ferrari will be embarrassed. And like we said, they're an iconic team, they're legendary in the sport, and to finally have a driver say, "You's awful, I'm leaving," I think it would be pretty damaging for their reputation in the sport.
Absolutely.
Definitely.